Hey everybody, I'm Canadian Operator and this is my Cabela's gun cabinet. This is what we're going to be reviewing today, and the reason for that is just because it's made an appearance and a cameo in a number of my videos, and I thought it was about high time for me to put this video together and let you know whether you should pick one of these up. Now, if you're somebody who's a little bit more seasoned, this might not be as much for you because you probably have a really big fat gun safe sitting somewhere down in your basement or somewhere else in your home, and you're pretty much established. This is more so for those sort of beginner to intermediate firearms owners who are looking for a safe and convenient way to store all of their firearms and ammunition without breaking the bank. Now, for a little bit of context, I live in about 750 square foot apartment, and this actually fits just very conveniently where I need it most. It's fairly safe, although there are some caveats there as compared to something a little bit more robust, but again, it's probably one of the most affordable options in the market. Being a wife-friendly channel here, fellas, of course, we're not going to be discussing price, but do join me in this video as we kind of talk about the positives, the negatives, and finally at the end of the video, whether I think this is worth your money. So let's get started. All right, so talking about safes or any kind of lockers, lock boxes, or cabinets, we of course need to talk about how do we get into it and how do we make it secure. In this case, it's a very simple system. It only just works on a lock and key, and we've got this kind of like recessed sort of inlay here on the key. I'm not sure if any of the locksmiths in the comments might be able to come up with a specific name for this or whatever. So it's not a conventional key, as you can see if I maybe get a little bit closer here for you. It definitely looks a little bit different. It's got the sort of inlay cut out of it as opposed to the actual body of the key being cut. So I'm not an expert, but I kind of feel like that may be a little bit safer. It may make it slightly more difficult to get into the lock if you know what you're doing. That being said, the lock, as you'll see in some of the B-roll here, doesn't look particularly strong. It does look like it will do the job, and especially if you're just, in a pretty relaxed environment and you don't expect that you're going to be having any issues, you just want to keep stuff locked up just for the sake of following the rules and the law and stuff like that, and you're not in a very high risk environment, then this is probably not going to be a big deal for you. However, there are going to be people out there, and that might include you, who are going to want some redundancies. Now, redundancy is always good, but everything is a trade-off, right? So having those extra redundancies is great because if you forget your keys and you don't have an Apple tag on literally everything, like I do, then you're probably going to want to be able to get access when you need access. And that's particularly important if you have firearms in there that you intend to use for home defense. So you want to be able to get those very, very quickly. Now, of course, in Canada, this is not something that we see very often or pretty much almost at all, but our friends in the US will probably be able to empathize with us here and know that, it's very important to be able to reach your firearm if you have an intruder in your home, if you have an animal attacking your livestock, or so on. So with that being said, having a key, it definitely makes ease of access very simple. Of course, you do want to make sure that you always keep your keys with you and you don't share them with anyone that's not supposed to have access to your firearms. That being said, if you lose your keys or somehow misplace them and you can't find them in a timely manner, well, then you're kind of going to be out of luck, right? So having some redundancy makes it maybe a little bit more prone to different points of failure. If you have maybe a keypad and then you have a fingerprint reader and then you have a backup key, well, any one of those things could fail, right? Maybe more the first two than the latter, but still, you have some points of failure there, right? So as you introduce redundancies, you introduce potential points of failure. So everything is a bit of a balance. So one thing that I really like is that, yeah, this is all key and it's nice and straightforward and very easy. It's fairly low cost because again, the price on this is fairly low compared to some of the other stuff out on the market. However, you're not going to have any other backup than your key. So if you lose your keys, you have basically run out of luck at that point. You either need to call a locksmith or get yourself your nearest crowbar. So that is sort of one of the only things that I don't like about it. One of the other things also is that, as you can see back here, you'll see a little bit more in the B-roll that I'll show you over the video here, but we have two different sort of doors here, and behind each door is something a little bit different. So on the right side of the safe or the cabinet here, we're gonna have the firearms, and on the left side, we have all the ammunition and little extra things that I kind of threw in there, little boxes and accessories and stuff like that. So while having those two doors is great, and while being able to keep ammunition and firearms separate is fantastic, even though that is not a prerequisite of Canadian law, because as long as you have a locked cabinet, storage room, or something like that that can't be easily opened or broken into, you can keep firearms, as long as they're unloaded, in there with the ammunition, and there's no problem with that. However, having this setup is actually going well above and beyond that minimum requirement, and it also makes things just a lot safer from the perspective that if one person can get into the left side or the right side, but they're not able to get in the other, or maybe they just give up, then they're kind of going to be out of luck. Now, the caveat with that, and I wish that this is something that Cabela's addressed, and I don't know if this is something they manufacture on their own or if they have another company manufacture these for them, but these keys work on both sides. It's the same key, the same lock on both sides. So if somebody does get their hands on the key, then having that extra layer of security really doesn't do anything, because basically that key will open up both sides and they're going to eventually have access to both firearms and ammunition. So with that said, let's just go ahead and have a look on the outside of the cabinet, as there is something around back that I want to show you. That is an issue that I had and some other people have had as well, whether they've had it delivered or they've picked it up from a store themselves. So probably something you should know about. And we'll crack the safe open, or the cabinet in this case, and we'll have a look inside. Very quickly, I want to show you the front upper right-hand corner of the cabinet here. Now, the actual corner itself is good, and I'm not sure how well you're able to see with this camera angle, but you can see that there's a bit of a divot here. There's a bit of a sort of an indentation, and I believe this to have been caused at some point during shipping between the distributor or the manufacturer and Cabela's warehouse or Cabela's store. But this is something that actually somebody on the Cabela's website warned about, and something that I experienced myself as well. There's a really sort of sharp piece of metal up on the inside top here that you can kind of feel, where sort of the side almost separated a little bit. It's probably about maybe 1/4 of an inch long or so, and then the indent itself is probably about 1/8 of an inch. So that being said, I don't think it's really going to have an effect on any of the doors or how everything works, or whether or not this thing is going to be safe enough to store firearms and ammunition in my apartment. I think for that reason it's going to be absolutely fine. However, if you're looking for something that's quite a lot more durable, this might not be for you. So always just make sure that you inspect everything you purchase, and if you're not happy with it, take it back and ask for it to be exchanged. All right, so let's go ahead and open the left door. This is where all the ammo is. And before we take a look on the inside, let me show you the locking mechanism, because it's definitely pretty interesting. All right, so before we have a look on the interior, let's have a look at the locking system here. We've just got a single vertical bar that closes at the top and at the bottom, and then a little bar that slides out the side in the middle of the door. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. We'll go ahead and crank the lock there. And as you can see, we've got a little piece, a little rod just protruding out the top. We're going to have one also protruding out towards the side. That's going to be at the middle of the door. And then if we look at the bottom, even though it's going to be a little kind of hard to see, you'll see that we have that bar protruding out the bottom as well. So having 3 points of contact for your door is definitely good. Now, this is going to be exactly the same as on the door on the right, albeit the door on the left is a little bit smaller for the ammo compartment. So let's go ahead and have a look in the ammo compartment, and then we'll move to the firearms compartment and have a look in there. All right, well, you'll see that I do try my best to stay organized here with my ammunition. I've got my 22 LR on the top, 5.56 below that, 9mm below that, and then we've got some 308 and some 12 gauge below that. So you've got a few shelves here that come with some nice foam padding, and then down below you can see that we have some space also with some foam padding for some extra boxes and accessories. I generally use this space for a few accessories and a few ammo boxes containing some extra loose ammunition, as well as some drying agent to keep everything moisture free. Now, I also do have some lights on the inside, as you can probably see. I'll try to get a better angle for you guys with another shot. And I'm going to link these in the description below on Amazon, because I think they're actually really nice for being able to light your safe. They're battery operated, and they're actually pretty cheap too. You can kind of just stick them to anything. And these ones just stick by magnets, which is great because this whole thing is just made of metal. So let's go ahead and close up the ammo compartment here, and we'll have a look at the firearms compartment. And notwithstanding the fact that both of these compartments can be opened by the same key, which I really wish wasn't the case, it definitely solidifies the notion of having to work only with firearms or ammunition at a given time, and not both, by having 2 of these separate compartments here. Now, of course, as I said, with Canadian law, you don't really need to have that. You can put everything in one place as long as it's locked. But that being said, it definitely helps to make things a little bit more secure. Every manufacturer is going to try to stretch how many guns you're able to put in here. Now, Cabela says that you can put 10. I've been able to put 6 7 if I really want to be creative, but there is lots of space here for firearms that have scopes, bipods, and various other attachments. There is a lot of space at the top here as well if you're handy and you want to put up a shelf. Of course, I've just got a little hook and some more of that Amazon lighting, link down in the description by the way, for me to be able to see stuff when it's a little bit darker. All right, folks, so let's start to summarize this thing up a little bit, and then we'll end the video with me letting you know whether you should pick this up or not. Before we start with the summary, though, I should give you the measurements here, as I didn't do that at the beginning of the video, which I was planning to do. So it's going to be about 55 inches tall, 32 wide, 13.5 deep. So this is going to be really great for 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Maybe you've got a condo, a studio, maybe you just got a big walk-in closet or a den. In any of those situations, this is the perfect size for that. Now, admittedly, it is more for people that are just starting out on their firearms journey, or they're kind of in that intermediate area where they own anywhere between maybe 3 to 6 guns. Anything more than that, you're going to be struggling to get it in there unless it's got no bipod, no scope, no attachments, no anything, right? And I'm pretty sure this is how Cabela's kind of measured how many they were going to get in there. You do get some little foam inserts that you can stick to the sides, and you've got 5 holes on each one. So of course, that adds up to 10. But as you saw in the B-roll there, of course, I kind of had to space mine out every other. And so because of that, I was only able to fit like 6, with the Tavor kind of sitting on all of the grips of all the other guns kind of in the middle and leaned over. So even for that, for the 7th gun, it didn't have enough space. I had to just kind of almost jury rig it, just kind of put it there sitting on some of the other firearms, which is a bit disheartening because the Tavor is kind of my favorite gun out of all of them, but that's another video. So one of the other things that I really like about this is that it's got 2 doors. This is really great because from a safety perspective, you've got your firearms on one side and you've got your ammo on the other. Now, of course, you don't have to have it this way, and if you have pistols, you still have options here because you do have some foam padded shelving on the ammo side of things, so you can put your pistols in there, and then you can put your ammunition down at the bottom below the shelves if you'd like. You do have ample space on the inside of these to mount lighting, so again, I'm going to put those links down in the description below if you want to get that lighting. It's actually quite nice and very inexpensive. You open up that door, and especially when it's a little dark, you're going to be able to have those lights all light up for you, and it's just going to look really, really cool. That being said, one of the things that I don't like is the fact that both of these locks are opened by the same key. From a safety perspective, that doesn't sit well with me at all, especially since there's really no other way of opening the door other than just the key. So if someone who is not supposed to have it gets their hand on it, they can open both compartments, and that kind of sucks. Obviously, when you're doing it, you know, hey, I've got my ammo on one side, I've got my guns on the other, and at least in my home, none of these doors are open at the same time as the other for safety reasons. So those are the things that I like and don't like, but do I think you should get it? Well, again, if you have the space, but not enough to get a really big safe, this is really good. And of course, if you're short on cash, you want to spend as little as possible, but still be able to follow all the laws and store everything safely and conveniently. Also, if you want to spend less money than it would cost you to buy a Ruger 1022 carbine, yeah, this thing is that inexpensive, especially when it's on sale. So just keep an eye on the website. Now, again, I'll leave a link down below. I don't get anything from it. I just wanted to share my experiences with you. But if you found these videos helpful or enjoyable, or in any way it improves your understanding of this thing before you bought it, I would really, really appreciate a like and, of course, a sub. And please come and join us on our Discord server, as that is a nice growing community of many gun lovers from all around the world, and we'd love to see you there. That being said, thanks very much for watching, and until next time, happy shooting.